Okay, so they spray at night. Yesterday it was like 100% clear. Okay, they're pushing this stuff in from the coast. You can see it's actually moving right now. And big line of stuff coming in this way. It's definitely got a chill to it. It's likely this is going to be some ammonium chloride. And then almost 90% chance of rain tomorrow. So you can bet these sprays have something to do with that. Yep.
I just want to say that CAL FIRE has been tasked here in Sonoma County to come up with the cause of the fire. It's important to understand that CAL FIRE has signed on to UN Agenda 21 policies. You will never hear about directed energy weapons. You will never hear about the smart meters' effect on these fires. You will never hear that. Never. Now, we have a YouTube up, and it's called The Plan to Burn Up Northern California. This was put on the internet 2.5 years ago when I was on the program with Jeff Rentz just after the assassination attempt on his life. And what this is, the plan that I discussed, it's actually two plans. The first plan has now occurred here in Sonoma County, and of course in Southern California as well, where our research team found two documents out of the California Public Utility Commission and Pacific Gas and Electric when they were being sued for spying on those people that were effectively breaking out the news across the country about the smart meters. There was a tremendous amount of spying by Pacific Gas and Electric. And I'll never forget the morning that the Chronicle called me and said, "Deborah, how does it feel being spied on by Pacific Gas and Electric?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." They said, "Well, your name is in the documents." I said, "Well, they spy on us with the smart meters. They've deployed something against our will that's dangerous. How could I expect that they wouldn't be spying?" And then there was a smart meter expert, the actual executive of PG&E, who tried to get into our Google group for the anti-smart meter movement, and he was caught falsifying his name and subsequently fired. And the reason I'm telling you this is that when we discovered that Rothschild is running Pacific Gas and Electric in Southern California, Edison, we then understood what was happening. This is another reason why in the document, the NASA war plan that I just showed you, there are 8 references to an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, as what they're going to do. Has anyone ever wondered why we have not hardened up our electrical grid? People have been talking since 2002 to harden up the electrical grid in the United States. They've hardened up the electrical grid in Russia and in China, and they've done a fairly good job in Canada. Nothing in the United States. Why? Because the utilities, of which there are thousands across the country, are run by Rothschild, and the lobbyists do not want the grid hardened. This is all part of a silent weapons takedown. As Angela referred, this is wealth redistribution. This is collapsing our society as we have known it, and this is eliminating the haves and have-nots. I'm going to jump into a number of different topics, but a plan of biometrically implanting every single person on the planet. Now, when we attended the IEEE meeting that I was telling you about, we were told during that meeting that every single thing on the planet, manufactured goods, as well as animals, plants, and people, would all be tagged with ID chips. It would trace the beginning of the manufacturing to end use. In the biometric implanting that they're starting now, it is going to track birth to death of all people globally. Bill and Melinda Gates are backing it because they will require our national ID cards to show that we've been vaccinated. They're telling us that we need these cards because it's dangerous to be invisible. You could be scooped up in some kind of trafficking event. We're being trafficked right now. And so they're telling us this is a good thing to do, because with these cards we can vote. There is no such thing as voting. We don't have a government that we are voting in. When we went to Washington, D.C., Lou and I, with Eagle Forum a few years ago, we passed out smart meter information and the weather modification information. We walked for days to all of the congressional buildings and offices. We even went to the Department of Energy and gave information to John Upton, who was the director at the Department of Energy at the time. It was silent. It was as though we were never there. They are crisis actors. These are political actors. They don't serve us. They run around taking money, defrauding us, working with the international bankers, and funneling money out of every single city and county nationwide through CAFR. And I cannot tell you how corrupt, how black and horrible this is for all of us. And I want to end with this. Just because many of you may or may not know about this situation, and you need to if you don't. There is what is called now a global community of targeted individuals. It's a deep black state targeting controlled ground network and satellite-based network, and also directed energy weapons that aim and direct frequencies and terrorize millions of people, not only in the United States, but abroad. So I want you to all type in targeted individuals. If you've never heard of it before, you need to know. I know many targeted individuals that are hit with directed energy weapons, and their lives are unmanageably torturous and cruel. They can now, they can control your brain. This is what it's all about. They're feeding these people in to the hive mind. It's a hive mind. It's a one world government. It's a one world bank. It's a one world religion. And it's a one world brain. That's where we are going. So to end it on a bit of a happier note, because I will tell you, we do have to have and find our faith. We do have to pray. And we do have to live one day at a time.
The equation mathematically, David Keith, again, the world's most recognized geoengineer, stating a goal of 20 million tons annually. That would equate to perhaps 600 to 800 tankers, military tankers, dispersing 60 to 70 tons per day, 24/7, 365 days a year. Now, we know we have a different equation than that because we have commercial aircraft involved as well. We're not implicating commercial pilots, not implicating commercial personnel. These systems are automated, but we know that their planes are being used because, again, we have photographs of the nozzles mounted on the pylons aimed at the engine exhaust, and we have flight tracker from the ground. We can monitor these planes. We have them on film, spraying, turning on and off, so they're being used also. So we're talking about an unimaginable amount of materials, George. This is a climate engineering Manhattan project.
The tic-tac-toe patterns that we see in the sky, what are they?
Many people see the X's and other grid-type patterns, and we can speculate on some of that, but it appears, at least in the case of some of the X's that appear, that may be a way for them to more easily track the movement of air currents from satellite imagery. So, again, we can speculate about that, but the fact that these are not condensation trails, they're particulate trails, it's indisputable if we look at all the data, testing, film footage, photographs of nozzles, patents, government documents, etc., etc. This is absolutely going on.
Who's paying for this? The taxpayer?
No. I think if we know about the financial system, George, we know that the central bankers can and do print whatever they want. So when the Pentagon is missing, officially, $8.5 trillion since the late 90s.
They can't find it.
How do you lose that much?
Yeah, really.
So the bottom line is, so long as we have the petrodollar, the dollar is the global reserve currency, which is why I think we can safely say that Saudi Arabia was not on the list of travel bans, because if they stopped using the petrodollar, that would be the end of the road for the empire. So we have a very complex scenario. But the central bankers, the petrodollar, the dollar being the global reserve currency, that's what's allowed the U.S. empire to expand to the level it has. And this is something people need to understand and realize, that the 700 and something bases abroad that, in the 150 plus countries, this is not about freedom and democracy. It's about resources.
Dane, there's a blizzard warning in Hawaii. What the heck is happening?
Well, at the same time, though, we have staggeringly warm temperatures at both poles. Let's plug that into the equation.
Yeah.
They can chemically nucleate snow over the pyramids, over Hawaii, in Dubai, anywhere to make the headlines they want. But what you don't see, George, is the last two Christmases in a row, at Christmas Day, we had 40 degrees and rain at the North Pole. Right now, we have record warm temperatures, North and South Pole. We just had all-time record high set in Antarctica yesterday of nearly 70 degrees, 65 degrees in Antarctica. We don't hear about that. That's about 80 degrees above normal, 80 degrees above normal. So I encourage people to simply, again, not believe me, look at the bigger picture, look past the spun-baited headlines that are designed to confuse them and divide them as to the true state of the climate. That's what climate engineering is for. That's one of the primary objectives.
Let's take some calls, as promised. Let's go east of the Rockies in Georgia. Gary is with us on Coast to Coast. Gary, welcome to the program. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
First time through, sir. I've called many times. I listen every chance I get.
Well, thank you.
I'm a police officer. I'm on duty, but I've been taking notes. This is important. 40 minutes before you mentioned it, I wrote down seed germination. I have been a gardener all my life. I have seen up to a 70% decrease in germination in certain seeds, and I attribute that to these metal particles that are affecting the microbes in the soil. The second point that I wanted to make, and I've heard this brought up, and I've heard George bring it up, that aggression. What's happening with aggression? We are collecting these particles in our bodies, and we are exposed to all these electromagnetic fields from everything, from our cell phones, from power lines, from office equipment. And I attribute, if if you would consider that the people who have dementia, Alzheimer's, how some of these people, they could be a minister for 50 years and then they turn into a vile, profaning individual. When this strikes them, it affects those centers in their brain that causes them to have this hostility. I believe that these particles are responsible for some of the aggression, and I am a police officer, have been since '94.
And thank you for serving, by the way, there.
Oh, I appreciate it. I believe that this can be attributed to some of the road rage and aggression that was not before. Like I said, since '94, this thing has increased exponentially. Since I'm on duty, I will make one more comment, then I will listen to your answer off the air.
All right.
The Holy Bible says that in the end time, you will neither be able to sow nor reap. This goes to this germination problem that I haven't personally seen. And there was another...